Welcome to the studios of Opening the Door to the Unknown. I am your host, Dr. Clark Schmidt, or Magus 100. I decided that instead of giving all the major sightings of 40, 48, 49, and 50, I decided to go into a little bit more in-depth history of 1947. Because I feel that 1947 was a year of happenstance and coincidences and a lot of occult energy, especially with UFOs. Like I said, is that in 47 there was major flaps, and like I said, the flaps were mostly directed to army bases or naval air stations around the country, and I feel that there was I do feel that there was a reason for this, as other UFO researchers and investigators have implied in writings writings in their books. But again, some of the writers have just touched upon the occult aspect with the UFO phenomena back in 47, and this is the reason why I want to go into a little bit more heavy detail with this, especially when it comes to Jack Parsons, Aleister Crowley, and L. Ron Hubbard. And Admiral Byrd going to the Antarctic, and again with the Roswell crash, itself, and a few other odds and ends that were also going on, almost getting into CE2 aspects with the UFO phenomena. All right, but let me start. Start with Crowley. Is that Crowley was head of the OTO back in England. He was also a member way back in the 20s. Well, even before then, back in the early 20s, with the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and he was a good friend of McGregor Mathers, who was one of the founders of the Golden Dawn, with Dr. Westcott, and I forget the third person. There's always three people involved that creates magical orders or mystery schools, and there's a reason. And again, there's a reason for that. And I don't think I really touched upon it in book one of mystery schools. But you know, it's just like with God the Father, with God the Father, Jesus the Son, and the Spirit as the Holy Ghost. You have like the triangle. Oh, okay, and the triangle represents three. Just like a witch will say is, if you do as to harm none, or is that you always, or you're going to get bad luck in threes. It always comes back in threes for an example. But those who created the Golden Dawn, and with McGregor Mathers, and also with Helen Blavatsky, with Theosophy. Again, she said is that when she was in the Himalayas, is that she met the three secret chiefs. Now, there is, how shall I say, this is going to be very important. all right, with these so-called three secret chiefs in the Himalayas, however that you want to call the mountains themselves with Tibet. All right, but that's going to be talked about just a little bit later on down the line. But let me get back to Crowley. Anyways, so Crowley was going to do a magical ritual called the Babalon Working, where he was going to change the eon, getting into with Horus, and if you know Egyptian mythology, is that Horus was Osiris and Isis, son, and Horus is represented with the eye, the all-seeing eye. Okay, and what Crowley wanted to do by doing the working with Babylon is to bring up the horror of Babylon, as to have sex with her, as to create the perfect, as he called it, moon child. And but he started the ritual. Now this is a drawn out ritual, and I don't think a magician has ever completed the working. But anyways, that he started the ritual, but he never finished, and he left suddenly from where he was staying to come over here to the United States in the early part of 1947, as to give Jack Parsons leadership of the Agape Lodge in California. Since Parsons was pro temp of the lodge, so Crowley thought that since he was pro temp, he was going to give him full charge. It never happened that way. Okay, it never happened that way, because it was like political maneuvering within the lodge itself, with a few people. And I'm not going to get into that, because I think it's kind of boring. But anyways, is that Parsons never became the head, actual head of the lodge. In fact, he lost his pro tempe when the schism was going on. Anyways. Again, this is the early part of 1947. All right, now, is that here comes a guy named L. Ron Hubbard, asshole, which he was. All right, L. Ron Hubbard was an asshole. He was a third-rate, I classified him as a fourth-rate hack science fiction writer. He was a thief. He was also an adulterer, and Parsons got mixed up. Parsons got mixed up with him, and so he lived. So, anyways, is that L. Ron lived with Parsons for a while in Parsons' beautiful California home, and they were going to perform. They were going to perform the ritual that Crowley had started back where he resided. Now remember, is that I said is that Crowley never finished the ritual, but he also didn't close the ritual as well. Now what do I mean by closing the ritual? A magician or a witch will open the ritual or ceremony, going through different types of protections, and at the end of the ritual or ceremony, they thank the deity that they called upon, as to, go in peace, and then they closed the portal up so the deity or the entity could not come back through without the magician opening the door, because the magician was the key to opening that door, either through ritual or through ceremony. But Crowley didn't have time because of what was going on in California. And that was really a bad mistake on his, that was really a bad mistake on Crowley's part. Anyways, is that Ron Hubbard and Parsons were going to perform the horror. With the Babalon Working, and to bring in, and again to bring in the horror of Babylon, as to have sex to create the perfect moonchild to get into the eon of Horus. Now, a lot of people think is that with the eon of Horus, because of with the third eye, okay, is that, or the eye of Horus, watching everybody, that this was beginning of the so-called New World Order. It was just like with the Masons today, is that everybody thinks is that the Masons are the original New World Order because of the some of the inner secrets that is not brought out. Even if a person becomes a 33rd degree, even though a person becomes a 33rd degree Mason, you still have 40, 50, 60, so you're up to 99 degrees. But that's like really in the darkest depths of Freemason. And a lot of people do not, how should I say, get into, are not asked to get into the darkest depths of the internal workings of the Masons. But again, it goes with, as I said in chapter 2, at the end, before closing out, is that with the three secret chiefs, just like with just like with Pulaski, with the three secret chiefs who she supposedly met up in the Himalayas, that told her to formulate theosophy, or it was just like the three secret chiefs that got a hold of Westcott and McGregor Mathers to create the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. And it was just like, now, it was a little bit different with Crowley going with the OTO, because he really didn't start the OTO. There was a guy named Menninger and some other people that actually started the OTO back in the late 30s. So there must have been three secret chiefs in there someplace, because, like I said, every magical order has always been created by the pronouncement of three secret chiefs. Now, I have an idea of who these secret chiefs are, but I'm going to get into that just a little bit later on. Okay, now, going back to Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard, asshole, is that they decided is that they were going to perform the ritual. I think it was going to be on a when the going with astrological charts, when the moon within the trine with the sun to with the planets and all this, and I think it was on a Wednesday that they said would be the perfect time when everything was in the right conjuncture. Anyhow, is that they started the ritual, at the time that they were going to begin the performance, and or the ritual at the time that they gave themselves to begin the performance, and it was believed as that the horror of Babylon actually knocked on Parsons' door at the house, and this woman's name was Marjorie. Um, Marjorie Cammers, and Parsons fell in love with her. Well, as he's diddling Marjorie, is that L. Ron Hubbard is stealing shit from him. I mean, just began to clean him out, almost right in front of him. And he gets the hell out, boom, he's gone. I mean, he's taken what he wanted, boom, he's gone. Well, again, is that the ritual for the ending is that they never closed. Just like Crowley didn't close up closed up the ritual as well. And right after that, about a month later, is when sightings began. UFO sightings were happening around the country. And like I said, they start out like one a day, then it doubled to 2 a day, and then going to 3 a day. So what Parsons thought is that he opened up a portal, but because they didn't close because he and Hubbard didn't close the portal, is where all these UFOs were coming from through a dimensional plane of existence, not from outer space. A lot of strange things then began to happen. A lot of strange things did begin to happen to Parsons, and finally, at the age of 27, 28, I think, is that he had a fire at his jet propulsion laboratory, and he died by the severe burns that he received through the fire. And as we all know, is that that third-rate hack writer L. Ron Hubbard wrote a book called Dianetics back in the early late 60s, and then he formulated the Church of Scientology, which was a complete fake, fraud, and phony, just to bring in money. So because of the working is the strange occult happenings were really forceful. It was just fucked up. I mean, let's just put it that way. It's just completely fucked up. Okay. Now, at the same time, again going back to Roswell, is that what happened? We had the Roswell crash. And this is when when General Twining called out the retrieval team to go and clean up the mess in the fields. Now, a lot of people thought in Roswell itself is that it was the base that was actually doing the actual cleaning up out there in the field, but actually it wasn't. It was this retrieval team that was created through the, and I have to remember the name. I think I got just a minute here. What is the name? over from Wright-Patterson is where the retrieval team was where actually at Wright-Patterson is where the retrieval team was formulated. But I can't remember actually the whole name at the moment, but I will, like it usually happens to me. Give me a minute. Let me look here. Okay. Let's see here. Gonna have to turn on the light. Sorry about. I guess I don't have a light. Huh. I guess I don't have a light. Okay. But that's see if I can find the name here. Just give me a second. All this is up in the head. And sometimes I just can't remember all the names. So I have to look in my cheat sheet books here. Boom, boom, boom. What is the name? Oh, come on. Oh, wrong book. That's why you have books, so you can go through the stuff here in case you need them real quick. 1964. Just give me a minute. Oh, I just love this. Wright-Patterson, 58. Okay, what year is that? This is 73. Well, anyways, I forget the name, but actually the retrieval team was created at Wright-Patterson, through a division, with a division of the Army Air Corps, which I can't remember, but like I said, it will come back to me. So anyways, is that, this is it. Nope, okay, that's not either. Okay. Anyways, is that, Parsons, so anyways, is that a fire happened at Parsons Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and he died from major burns. And a lot of people thought of three things that could have happened or would cause a fire. One was that Parsons was beginning to know too much of what was going on. With the UFOs. Now, Parsons believed, and this is kind of strange, is because Parsons believed is that the occupants of the UFOs were not aliens again, because remember, he believed is that when they did the Babalon Working, he opened up a dimensional door to allow the UFOs to skirt through. And as coming through a dimensional door is that there was like demons instead of coming from outer space. But at the same time, for some reason, is that he also thought that they could have been they could have also been aliens, but more of getting with the demons again. So one thing, his death was either caused by he was beginning to maybe that these were not demons, is that there could have been a possibility that the UFO sightings were actually coming from outer space, from different planets, and he would have figured it out. So he was murdered. Number two, it was just a plain accident because he always stored a lot of stuff in one of the sheds, especially explosives, because that's what he was. He was like with rocket fuel. That was his as a chemist. Or number three is that L. Ron Hubbard had to get rid of him because of the crap by the crap that was stolen out of Parsons house, and also L. Ron was also screwing, and Hubbard was also screwing Parsons' wife. So those are the three scenarios of the death of Jack Parsons. So, by doing the Babalon working, is that this is what caused a lot of UFO activity later in '47. Now, you also had Admiral Byrd, who went up into the Antarctic, and Byrd believed is that he found there was a lot of flat Earth believers at that time, which there are as of today. All right, and because of that is that he thought is that he hit a doorway coming through. I guess it was like with a cave. And he went into the cave, and he went, like down, and he went into another world where he met an alien that talked about peace and love and all this, and so he always he kept a lot in his journal, and he kept a lot in his journal. Okay, and when he died, before I gotta remember is that when he died is that his journal went to a niece, a nephew, somebody like that, and killed the late '60s maybe, or '60s or '70s when the journal finally came out, and the government went, and of course the government went through it, and all of a sudden what happened to the journal, But here we go with with Helena Belaski, I should say her name is. And she said is that when she was up in the Himalayas, she always heard that Tibet the mysteries of Tibet. Had a lot of occult significance. And one of them was this, what was his name? Joseph Heller. Was it Joseph Heller? Yeah, it was Joseph Heller who wrote I remember the book. Shangri-La. I'm trying to remember the title of the book. Shangri-La. Lost Horizon, where Joseph Heller wrote a book called Lost Horizon, where nobody ever died as long as you were in the confines of Shangri-La itself. But once you left the confines and went back out into the wilderness, is that you were going to die. But anyways, is that Belaski believed of Shangri-La, and this is again where she supposedly met 3 chiefs in Tibet. Now, I believe is that these three chiefs, the way that she described, now the way that Pulaski described the three chiefs was like with light green skin, bald head, big eyes, um, which would actually be what? Yes, the Greys, or at least one race of the Greys. Actually, there's three races of the Greys. I'm not going to get into that for a while, okay? But anyways, as the Greys, and the Greys told her how to create a philosophy uh, through a metaphysical philosophy, if you will, and she called this theosophy. She called this theosophy, and so she went back and she became a member of the Golden Dawn, and she didn't like it too much, and so anyways, she left, and then she created Theosophy, where her belief was in more like in reincarnation, and and other and other things. Um, more heavy on the philosophy than actual practice of, you might say. Um, but again, with the secret chiefs. Okay. So this is why I say that 1947, and plus also in 1947, I did read is that there was a woman from Worcester, Massachusetts, said is that she took a picture, or that she saw as a UFO was going by. Is that she said is that she saw an occupant within, inside that looked like a sailor, that was dressed as an officer in the Navy. Okay, so like I said, is that 1947 was a heavy year. Here again, you had the crash. Here you had the crash at Aztec, New Mexico, and also at Roswell. You had Parsons and you had Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard doing the Babalon Working. Aleister Crowley died about a month later after returning back to England with his from his California trip. You had Admiral Byrd go up into the Antarctic, and stating is that he was inside the Earth talking to a being of sorts. So yes, Jack Part, strange things. A lot, like I said, a lot of occult activity took place in '47, and it just didn't end there. All right, like I said, in 1948, yes, I could go through all the sightings again with the bases and stuff. In 1949, going through the same thing, but in 1950 and 51 was the was most interesting, because it had a lot of people that became one famous in one way, became famous in one way or another with within the field of UFOlogy. You also had the beginning of MIBs, and also abductions, and also close encounters of the second and third kind, in which I will be discussing a little later on. So, so I hope that you enjoyed about 1947. That would have been a great year to have been that fly on, have been that little fly on the wall, what was going on within the Pentagon, what was going on at Wright-Patterson, what was going on, with Roswell itself, with Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard, asshole, um, and I don't think is that we'll ever have a 19. I don't think that we will ever have another 1947. I really don't. Like I said, there's just too much. There's like I said before, a lot of sightings today, last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Let's even go back to 2000 up until today. Okay, but but there was sightings again back in the 40s. But it was more interesting back in the 40s. And yes, is that going from 1970s, beginning in the early 70s and 80s, and even 90s, is that you had the abductions, and you also had the mutilations. You also had Linda Morton Howe writing her books on high strangeness. You had Art Bell with Coast to Coast. You had Al Bielek, who I'll be talking about later on. You had Al Bielek and Major Ed Dames and other people, John Mack, again, who I'll be talking about later on. Geez, I mean, there's just it's just so much, but it's almost the same crap. Okay. Excuse me. It's just like it's almost the same stuff, just like in the metaphysical, especially like in the metaphysical, talking to spirit with all the applications that are out. And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay? And it's interesting. I mean, say for example, and I'm going to kind of divert a little bit off, but it's, I'm going to divert a little bit off here. But it's just like with Mark Macy going with ITC. If it wouldn't have been for was he from Denmark or from Sweden? Rodenice or whatever, how you ever pronounce his name, going out to keep the cord birds, is that and capturing the first, like an EVP, you wouldn't have people that would be continued to doing heavy research, like with Mark Macy, for an example, with ITC. Or this gentleman from Italy, I can't remember his name at the moment, that was working with ITC. And it's just like with the UFOs. I mean, goes back, like I said, UFOlogy actually goes back with the study of going back to Egypt and Babylon and Greece and Mesopotamia, okay, and then moved ahead until we are here today. But it was always in different, how should I say, always in different years that strange things really began to kick. 1947 was one of the years that began to kick, because we just got out of a war. We were starting to move, and we just got out of a major world war, starting to slowly move into a Cold War. You had people like Crowley and Parsons doing with the Babalon Working. You had with the Roswell crash. with the first picture ever taken, the first picture that was ever taken of a flying saucer by a Navy yeoman. Um, with Admiral Byrd going through to the north, to the pole. So a lot of things happen, and 47 just happened to be the year that it was built. It was actually again building up. Okay, and so the more that it built up, the more energy was going to be released like a volcano, and that's what happened. And boom, it just blew. Okay, and again, this is where um, Project Saucer came into being. Then with Project Sign, then with Project Grunge, then with Project Blue Book. You had the UFO organizations like again NICAP, April, UFOIC, and other small organizations. You had well, I don't want to get into more names until I get into that section of the early 50s, because again, is that kind of interesting as well. With some of the names and what happened, what type of I don't want to say meetings, but things that happened, like strange things that happened to them, you might say. And then we get into the 60s with the abductions, but there was abductions before before the Betty and Barney Hill incident. Anyways, be talking about all this stuff, and it's all interesting. Okay, it really is really interesting. In fact, like I said, if it wasn't for a friend of mine that got me interested in from reincarnation to UFOs, and let me read Fate magazine back in 1966, is that I would never have been interested. And like I said, that UFOlogy felt was really my first love before metaphysics, esoterics, and also hermetics. Okay, but like I said, I'll be talking more about this down the road. Like I said, a lot of interesting things with this and that. Okay, so all I got to say at the moment is bye bye.